Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who's still here on the last presentations for today. And my name is Naomi, and I'll be presenting my experiences about my capstones research since last year. So my focus is understanding the impact of livelihood-based interventions for Manta conservations, specifically on the human well-being in Lamakera, Flores in Indonesia. And here's the outline for today. It will start from the problem, study sites, approach, results, lesson learned, up to next step, which is beyond the capstones, what I will be doing beyond my capstones. And first of all, I want to show you guys this pictures about the moblet race. As you can see, they're fantastic animals and they're very charismatic, and you can find them in the oceans. But they are, if you look at their life history, they are considered a slow-growing large animals, as they have a long year of gestations and only produce one pup every 2 to 7 years. And due to that, this past few decades, there had been a demand for gill plates, and it has become the largest driver of manta and mobile array fisheries globally, as they believe it can use to reduce toxic in the human body and heal any type of sickness. And within the past few decades, Indonesia has been a major supplier of these gill plates to consumer markets in the Asia market, which include the China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And they're currently listed in the IUCN Red List, and some of the species of the moblet are listed in the vulnerable, and also some of the species are listed as endangered. And just to highlight, 2 of the species of the moblet race, also known as the Manta race, are currently fully protected in Indonesia. But I want to highlight also that if you look in Indonesia, specifically, shark and ray utilizations have a big role in the coastal community. As you can see in this map, there is more dot color, the red dot color, which highlight the shark fishery sites that had been identified, which means shark fisheries are socially and economically important in Indonesia, as they provide livelihood for the coastal communities and also local food security for around coastal community in Indonesia. And just one more thing, there's still an existing culture that has been passed down through generations, which you can see in this picture. It's a manta hunter, which a specific fisherman hunts the manta using a harpoon. This is still exists in Indonesia, and the most common locations are located in Solar Island, specifically in these 2 villages, which are also known to be the Lamakera. And this is where my capstone work will be focused on. And just to highlight, there has been a long history of mobile ray fishing in these coastal communities, as they depend very highly on the ocean resources, as there's limited resources on the land. And just to another highlight, this coastal community was known as the world's largest targeted manta ray fisheries in the past few years. Therefore, as I mentioned previously, 2 of the species, that is the manta, the reef manta and the oceanic manta, have been fully protected in Indonesia since 2014, but it had disregard for how this would impact people who depends on these resources traditionally and economically. Therefore, there's been multi-stakeholders that have been working to support this, to support the community who previously depends on these resources, and which include the governments and also NGOs locally and nationally. And an alternative livelihood called Karamurin Fishing Cooperative was established in 2017 to provide the support for communities that are impacted by legislation. And just to highlight, this fishing cooperative have 5 business units. And the first one is the saving and loans program, where the members can start providing their own savings in this cooperative and or ask request and loans for the fishing activities. There's also mini precinct boats where people can, the members can work in these boats as an alternative livelihood. There's also local shop, ice productions, and gas supplier that provide a more affordable price, so the fishermen and the members can buy this fishing equipments and daily needs for their daily trips. But limited information is, there's still limited information on how effective this cooperative have been to the community. And this is where my capstone landed, is to answer, has this approach been effective in supporting the community socio-economically? And the second one is, have the cultural values of Manta Ray changed in Lamakera? And my capstone have been supported by Misol Foundations, also University of Oxford. And through their support, I was able to conduct several steps and phases up to now. And the first one is I did a literature review, which the main focus is to identify methodologies to use to measure impacts for conservation intervention, specifically for the alternative livelihood approaches. And the second one is to understand the qualitative measures of human well-being, specifically for the subjective and material well-being. And finally, all of the results are used to inform interview design and approach throughout my capstone. And the second thing I did is a scoping visits to 12 key informants interview, which consists of the head villagers, the fishermen, and also the women. And this is just to gain general information about the community and its social structure in the community. And the aim of this visit is also to test different types of indicators of good life to identify what aspect of human well-being are mostly relevant in this regional and cultural context. After that, with my capstone partner, we have created another design questionnaires, which are used to in the main data collection visits. And in total, I had interviewed 95 respondents, which consists of direct and non-beneficiaries of the alternative livelihood interventions. And I did a semi-structured interviews, which aim to measure 3 things. The first thing is the impact of the livelihood intervention on subjective and material well-being across these 2 groups. And the second is the trends in culture values since the interventions. And finally, the impacts of the livelihood intervention on direct beneficiaries. And based on the results, I combine a mixed approach of quantitative and qualitative results. And for the subjective, in terms of the subjective well-being, the community in Lamakera and also its surrounding villages are mainly satisfied with their current life, but it needs to be highlighted that neither direct nor non-beneficiaries report an increase in well-being since the livelihood intervention was established. And I've also, for the material well-being, I did some Likert scale during the questionnaire surveys. And here's the results. And I did a t-test results, which indicates slightly significant difference between the mean comparison of welfare of the community. But when I compare it with the qualitative results, it shows that direct beneficiaries have slightly higher perceived monetary welfare relative to others in the community. So this may not be due to the intervention itself, but it may be to other external factor that was not included in this survey. And the second one is I want to show you the trends of the culture value since the interventions. And I specifically want to show the Moton Wooten locations as this is the location where the tradition have been introduced since a long time ago. And as you can see, the answers is between no change. That is the gray graph. It indicates that the community still doing the traditions up to now, but there's also the respondents that have answered large loss and small loss. So overall, what I want to highlight is there's a loss of identity since the of culture since the interventions. And the last part is how effective is it for the members of the cooperative for the members itself. So the first thing is only a few of the cooperative members has had the opportunity to obtain a job, and from the interview results, it seems there's inequitable distributions of job opportunity on the cooperative program, especially between men and women. As you can see, there's more job opportunity for the men compared to the women. And the third, although some members of the cooperative felt they were able to start saving since the saving and loan business unit were established. And the other last thing that I want to highlight is since becoming the members, most of the respondents have cited that they were able to communicate more openly among themselves, which in the yearly evaluation meeting, which highlights and indicates that the members are willingly to work, find a way to work in improving this alternative livelihood for their well-being. And through the lesson learned of my capstone year from the literature review and also through my surveys, overall, people did not report a decline in material well-being since the interventions, and although very few have reported receiving benefits from it. And however, there were also many who reported a loss in culture identities. So it is important for people to think about people's livelihoods that are not just a form of income generation, but it is a way of life, and it is embedded deeply within their culture. And for future livelihood interventions, it is crucial and it must take appropriate measures to be ethical and effective for conservations and also for the people. And so for the next step beyond my capstone is I will be working on creating a one-page policy brief in Bahasa with infographics that as a lesson learned that will be shared to the government and to the local NGOs and also the communities that had participated in this study. And I will also continue working with my capstone partner to refine my methodology for future replications. And finally, to further analyze my data set with my other capstone partner using a multivariate regression for submission in peer-reviewed journal. And lastly, I want to thank all of my advisors, that is Don Kroll, Lena, Joe, Holly, and also all my organization partners throughout this year. Without them, I could not done my capstone. And finally, I also want to thank everyone in the field who has supported me and encouraged me to conduct all surveys throughout my capstone. And also, I want to thank everyone who I was not able to mention in the slides. And I guess that's it for my presentations, and thank you.